The studio is Armen Georgian, our International Affairs Editor. Armen, what is the purpose of today's summit?
Well, it's not the first summit aimed at clarifying the relationship between France and the Sahel countries, but what's changed is, as you mentioned in the introduction, that French decision to end Operation Barkhane, which is the French-led operation in the Sahel. So it was going to be a phased withdrawal. That raises a lot of questions in that. Does that French decision leave these Sahel countries in the lurch because they are losing a lot of soldiers and a lot of civilians have been killed as well? So I think they're going to want to get a sense from France in this summit. What is the extent of French involvement going to be beyond the French withdrawal? And on the other side of the equation, France is going to want to know, do the Sahel countries have a plan to be completely responsible for their own security from going forward? But there is still obviously room for cooperation, and one thing they'll be focusing on is this Takuba task force, which is a European mission in the Sahel, which is aimed to help with stabilizing the region. And in theory, that mission is meant to play a more important role once the French forces leave. But will it really be able to do that? There's a lot of details that still need to be discussed today.
And that's what those West African leaders are wanting to find out, aren't they, Armen? Because there's not a lot of information at this point in time as to what will be the nature of that planned withdrawal. What do we know? Yeah,
it's a little bit ambiguous. I mean, a couple of things we know: that France is going to reduce by 50% its forces by 2023. So at the moment, the French have about 5,000 soldiers. So we're going to be left with 2,500 by early 2023, so a year and a half from now. But in terms of what France is going to do, what kind of special support it might give to national forces or, special forces operations, all this is not entirely clear. A month ago, when Macron announced the end of that French-led operation, he sounded pretty impatient and quite tetchy at times, as if France had lost patience with some of these partners, particularly with Mali, and he was very critical of the military coup in Mali that happened recently. But then, if you push the rhetoric to one side, France actually more recently quietly resumed its military cooperation with the Malian army, despite the fact that that army is now led by a group of military coup leaders. So I think France has realized that it does need to stay in the region. And of course, the Sahel is the gateway to Europe. It's such an important dynamic, not just in terms of security and terrorism, but also climate change and migration. So this is not a region that France and Europe can simply ignore or forget about.
Armen Georgian, thank you.